All right, so I'm a big fan of Sudoku. I've been playing it for a while, and the other night I thought to myself like, hey, this would actually be a pretty fun little challenge to um, attempt to make Sudoku from scratch. So um, this is what that looks like. Um, so that's what we're gonna show you how to do here. Now, before we get into writing the code or designing the visuals of anything, let's first take a look at what we're actually trying to accomplish, high level, and then figure out how we're actually going to do that. So now I'm going to preface this with, there are many, many different ways of tackling this, and this is just one way, the way that made sense to me. If you have questions or suggestions, or you have any other ways that you've figured out, just let me know in the comments. So let's just take, I'm going to take a Sudoku board here. So let's just understand what we're working with here. So we have a 9 by 9 grid or square that is also subdivided into these 9 3 by 3 squares. Now, the rules of the game are pretty simple. So you can't have the same number repeating in the same column or the same row or the same sub square, 3 by 3 square here. So for example, say in here, can we put a 1 in here? No, because there's a 1 in here. There's also 1 in the same column. Can we put a 4 here? So there's no 4 in this sub square, but there's a 4 in the column, right? So the answer for this would then be 7. So there's no 7 in no other 7 in the column. There's no other 7 in the row. There's no other 7 in this 3 by 3 square. So those are the rules of Sudoku. So we're gonna want some buttons, right? Start the game, restart the game, maybe solve the game, keyboard input, and then the numerical input here for if you're using it on your phone. Now, how do we break this all down and get into the programming of it? So we're trying to make this available on the web. Okay, so for today, we're going to use JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. But if you're doing this in other programming languages, you can still follow along. Like the basic principles are going to be the same. So let's go ahead and think this through. So the way I would think of this is arrays. So we're going to start with a 2-dimensional array filled with zeros at first, right? And let's just take a look at this picture. Yeah, and then we're going to plop some numbers inside of this array, initial numbers. So let's say we put like 20 random numbers in there in 20 random positions. Now, before we can add these numbers to the array one by one, we're going to have to validate whether these numbers can actually exist in that position first. Just like we did here. So can this 7 exist there? So we need to write a function that will figure out, can you put the 7 in this position of the array, which would be, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in position column 8 of the array, because the array starts at 0, and row 0, 1, 2, 3. So can this 7 exist in row 3, column 8? And also validate whether that number exists already in this subsquare, 3 by 3 subsquare. So after we add these 20 initial numbers to the blank array, we want to store this starting array in memory. And we also want to continue solving the Sudoku puzzle into another array. So we have our starting array of like 20 numbers or whatever you want. And then we have our completed solution that we're going to check the player input against later. Okay, so far so good. Let's go ahead and figure out what we're going to be writing in here. So, like I said, what we need is initial 9x9 blank array. Whoops. A solved 9x9 array. And then some functions here to create a random number, right? From 1 to 9. Then function to like validate the number against the rules of Sudoku. So validate the number against Sudoku rules. So that will take it will take the number that we give it, its location, so the row and the column, XY coordinates, and then the array to check against. And it will say, can you add that number there? Function then to generate the starting array. And then another function to generate, or like to continue solving it, to generate the solution array. So we're gonna check the player input against against the solution array for the remaining of the game. Okay, so that's the main framework right there. So let's just make a blank HTML file here. Save this first. Call it index.html. So quick little HTML file. Okay. Script and HTML. Whoops. Okay. So save that. So like I said, the first thing that we need is the function to generate a random number. So let's quickly do that. So get random int. So we want a random integer. So we'll give it a minimum and a maximum. And we want to return an integer. Okay. Times, so that will be max minus minimum plus 1. I'm going to add the minimum. Okay, so that would give us a random number, random integer between min and max. Now let's write the what did I say here? The function to validate the rules. So so we'll call that is number valid. So that will take the array and call it board. The position, the row position, row and column, and then the number. And we want to say, can you add that there? So how are we going to break that down? We're going to have the 3 rules, and we're just going to return false at every step. So the first step will be so let's iterate through again first. So for let x equals 0, x less than 9, x plus plus. Okay, so I'm going to have a for loop and check first the row. So and iterate through. Yeah. So if board row x. Okay. So if the number exists already, then return false. Okay. Same thing for the, so if board x this time, and then column equals number, and return false. Okay, so basically, if so far we're going to iterate 9 times, and we're going to say, does the number exist on the row? Does it exist on the column? So if it does, then it returns false. Otherwise, it keeps going. So then the last check here is we're trying to get into the subsquare now. So that's a bit more tricky. Let's see if I can explain this properly. So let's get some variables. So square starting row. So what we want to get to is we're iterating 9 times, right? So far we're saying, like, in the column starting here, is the 7, does the 7 exist here? No. Okay. So then we can go through and we can look at the row. Does it exist in the row? No. Okay. So then as the x is increasing, we also want to go from starting at this location, go from here, then check this number, and check this number, check this number, this, and this. So the starting row, in this case, can we put the 7 here? So the starting row is going to be here. So we're going to say mat floor. So round it down. So the row divided by 3 times 3. And then the starting column. Column is mat floor column divided by 3 times 3. So far it will give us that location. And then we want to iterate inside of that square starting there. So inside square row will be square starting row plus math floor x divided by 3. Oops. Okay, and then inside square column, square starting column plus x mod 3. So that will basically modify x to, instead of going 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, it will basically be 0, 1, 2. So yeah, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2 with the mod. Okay, and if board inside square row and inside square column, if the number already exists there, then return false. Okay, and then if all of that went, so just quickly put a comment in here. So if all comparisons were successful, return true. Or I guess it is not successful, but return true. So we have the main rule. Now let's generate the actual array, the starting array and the solution. So function generate, call it random Sudoku. So this will generate our Sudoku array. So let board be an array from length 9, arrow, okay, 9, and we're going to fill that with zeros. And then we're going to do the same thing for the starting. So the board will be the solved array, and then we're going to say starting board will be the starting array. So how do we do this? So we want to fill in. So up on this point we have an array, a two-dimensional array with zeros. Now we want to fill in 20 of these tiles, if you will, with random numbers. So let's do a while. So found valid numbers equals 0. And then we're going to say while found valid numbers less than 20. We want to, so let row equals get random integer. So we're going to get a random row from 0 to 8. Column get random integer from 0 to 8. Number get random integer. In this case, it'll be 1 to 9. So give us a random number in a random location, basically. And then we're going to figure out for each one, can we actually put it there? So if board row column equals 0. So if it's blank, is number valid? Board, then give it the row. What I do? Board row column number. Okay, so then set that location to the number. So set the value of it to this random number. And let's do that for the starting board as well. Starting board row column equals number. Oh yeah, and then let's make sure this increases as well by 1. So that's our while loop there. So get a random row, random column, random number. If the array is blank, like if it's got a 0 in there, and that number is valid, let's set the value of the row and column inside of that array to the number. Do that for the starting board as well, and increase our while loop. Okay, and then return, we're going to return the board and the starting board. So far, this function is only going to generate an array or 2 arrays with 20 numbers in them, but we want to continue solving the one array here. So let's do another function here. Call that I don't know, solve Sudoku, and we're going to give it the array to solve. So just iterate through. So for let row equals 0, row less than 9, row plus plus. Okay, and then inside of that column, let column less than 9, column plus plus. Okay, and then inside of that, if board row, row column equals 0. All right, for let number 1, number less than 9, less than or equal, num plus plus. Okay, oops. So if is number valid, so give it again, what do we need? So board, row, column, number. Okay, so that, oops. So if the number is valid, then board, row, column, equals number. And basically if it's yeah, so if solve Sudoku board, then return true. Otherwise board, row, column, 0. False, and return true. Whoops. Return true. Okay, so yeah, that looks about right. Let's make this smaller here. All right, so we can go ahead and solve the second or the board array here. So let's add this function here before the return. So solve Sudoku board. Okay, so far, if we did everything correctly, we should have 2 arrays. One will have 20 numbers in them, and one will have the whole board solved. So let board starting a board equal generate random Sudoku, and let's just console log this to see if we did it correctly. Console log board. Okay, and then go ahead and what did I do here? Oh, that's what I did. Num equals 1. Okay. Okay, so there we are. So we have an empty array with zeros, and we should have 20 numbers in here. And then then we have a solved array to check the player input against later on. So that's the main functionality of Sudoku. Now we just have to get into designing the actual fancy game. Let's save this. Okay. So let's see how we're gonna attempt that.